In the storied history of pro wrestling, many wrestlers have emerged as a viable contender to possibly capture championship gold. Not any title, but the world championship itself. We could go on and ramble about a bunch of them, but today I wanted to talk about possibly the most unfortunate push of the 2000s that ever came to fruition. William Regal's back in 2008. What is up, guys? Wrestling Premier is here. I decided, you know what, let's go with something very different today. I wanted to talk about something nobody seems to go into detail with, that being William Regal's push. Now, personal experience, as a young kid back in the late 2000s, I honestly never understood Regal, and I felt that the man was boring, and it took me a couple of years to realize otherwise. If I can assume why I didn't care about him, it's probably because he wasn't flashy or anything like that. Like, he was just a regular old villain to kid me. It wasn't until I began learning about a hell of a lot of wrestling that I started to see William Regal as one of the most underrated wrestlers from the 2000s. Yes, even more underrated than Christian himself. Regal possessed all the qualities to be a dominant main event heel. You know, he had the mic skills, the wrestling skills, the facial expressions, which was something that I really love about him. He really could have been that big heel that challenged for the WWE title, but he wasn't. So what happened? Well, long story short, he failed the wellness policy, but then in this video, I'll cover Regal's push as a Raw GM to the suspension that cost him a huge main event push. So where do we start off? Well, how about August 6, 2007? Mr. McMahon made his return after faking his death. That's a whole other story, but the reason why I'm mentioning this is because McMahon wanted to appoint a new general manager for Raw. Not an assistant, but a GM. To say that Coach was underwhelmed with this announcement would be an understatement. McMahon booked a battle royal to determine the new Raw GM, and also the thought of Umaga or Sandman winning this one would have been quite amusing. The ring slowly empties as time goes on, but during the match, Regal disappeared, leaving the Sandman to win it. Unlike nowadays, that spot actually caused some shock, but yeah, William Regal stole it to become the new Raw general manager. Coach was fuming over the result and was demoted to William Regal's assistant. And the new GM quickly took advantage of this by hosting a game show by the name of The Dating Game. He hosted another show called WWE Idol. It's not on the network, by the way, but like I said, Regal's just getting comfortable with his position. Unfortunately, though, since he was a non-wrestler, his stats were shot. From being an 82 overall, I guess, Regal fell to a 49 overall, being unable to defend himself in situations like these. He was the perfect choice to be the Raw general manager because of his mic skills, his stern character, and if they wanted him to wrestle, he can do just that. The run itself heading to the end of the year was simple. Regal was just booking matches, and at this point, he had yet to feature in a major storyline. I mean, the biggest thing he was doing was trying to search for Hornswoggle, that's all. The Raw GM eventually made his in-ring return in December of 2007 when Mr. McMahon randomly booked him in a handicap match to face Triple H. From here on, we'd start to see Regal much more often in the ring, and this was the first time Regal had competed in nearly 5 months. Triple H was like 96 overall at this point, so you know they stood no chance. Regal, however, was left unfazed, and it was only the beginning of that mini feud. The Raw GM ended up costing the game a spot in the Royal Rumble 2 weeks later, and the reason why he did this was, I assume, because he wanted to make right by Vince, who was very pissed off over a little Hornswoggle incident. This led to a first blood match the following week, which clearly ended with William Regal busted open. It was a very quick yet intense brawl, and it served to be the official beginning of Regal's in-ring return. He ended up losing to Ric Flair in about 2 minutes the following week, but following this, he was back to work. It wasn't until after WrestleMania 24 that Regal slowly turned into a tyrant. Before the official reign of terror went underway, Regal became a babyface for one night only. So the WWE champion felt that the GM had overstepped his boundaries. This was in light of his title match potentially being a fatal 4-way, and Regal didn't appreciate the comments and so decided to book himself in a match against Randy in London, England. Raw was emanating from there, so there was no way in hell they weren't gonna cheer him. He played it up as the good guy, insulting the likes of JBL and Randy Orton, generating chants for his name, and the match itself saw him put in a very valiant effort. He came out to his old song, and the match itself could have been longer, but what we got was a fine display. Orton healed it up as he does, giving way to the fans clamoring for Regal to make a comeback. He hits a few exploders and knee, leaving Orton in critical condition. It was a situation so bad that he had to put his foot on the rope, but unfortunately though, Orton was clutch, and he caught Regal with the RKO a few seconds later. Even though Regal's night didn't go the way he intended it to be, the April 21st, 2008 edition of the show proved to be one of his most memorable ones. So if you're not familiar with this, a King of the Ring tournament was scheduled for that night. I don't know why they didn't do a full-on tournament, you know, spread out over several weeks, but they did it anyways. Regal, to the announcers, wasn't intending to compete, so when he came out, it was a shocker. Not only that, but Hornswoggle was his opponent. He was all worried about this, and Regal went to stealth mode in order to send his opponent into the ring. Regal stared at him as if he was dinner and quickly locked in the stretch to win it. The already injured Finlay tried to save his son, but was kicked in the already injured leg, and ironically or not, he was set to face, you guessed it, William Regal in the semifinal. Finlay was limping coming down to the ring, and being the ring general that he is, William Regal quickly went after that leg. The commentary team thought it was quite unusual of a general manager to insert himself into the King of the Ring, and in the ring, Finlay did have some fight in him, but the Regal stretch caught him dead in his tracks, earning William Regal the win. This meant the Raw general manager was in the final, where he was going to meet CM Punk, Mr. Money in the Bank. Also on SIMO, oh my god, did that thing suck. Who in the hell thought to themselves, I want to watch the presidential candidates go at it? Nobody gave a damn. Nobody gives a damn to this day. Regarding the final match, CM Punk had to win through 2 grueling matches with Matt Hardy and the IC champion Chris Jericho, so his body was clearly in the orange state, if he plays SmackDown vs. Raw. His body was killing him by the looks of it, whereas Regal was in great condition. It was in for something else though, as Punk was unlike the previous men. He was aggressive with the strikes and knees, and so he quickly targeted the back, trying to wear down CM Punk. Mr. Money in the Bank showed heart fighting out of the hold, delivering massive kicks that completely sent Regal into another world, but his GTS attempt went about as well as his title reign later that year. Regal hits this brutal ass knee before locking in the stretch, forcing Punk to tap out. Oh man, I love that. I just want to see more heels win dominantly like we seen Roman did earlier this week. Now that Regal was king of the ring, he took the time to sit on the throne, and damn, it was really looking like the beginning of a supervillain movie or something. Regal, by the looks of it, was fixing to plot some corrupt plans with that look. Despite the fact that Regal was back to being an active wrestler, didn't mean that he was letting go of his position, oh no. As for his plans following King of the Ring, well, this is what I could find. This is a report. I couldn't find exactly who was the one who wrote it, but I'm just gonna mention it anyways. The main person behind William Regal and this recent King of the Ring push is Triple H. He thinks Regal can draw a lot of heat in the King role, and he's been a big fan of his in-ring work. The feeling is that MVP has his US title, CM Punk already has the Money in the Bank, and Jericho has the IC title, so none of them currently need the spot. Originally, the plan was to do the event in the UK, but Regal wouldn't have been able to get over as a heel in his home country. Regal is expected to move into an upper mid-card to main event role as a badass heel, but one thing going against him is the fact that Vince isn't a fan of his in-ring style. Okay. Things were looking very optimistic for one William Regal. On the April 28, 2008 episode of Raw, the coronation of the King of the Ring was held. Regal confirmed that he was remaining the Raw GM and called himself the most powerful entity in the company. The new king was under the belief that the fans were jealous, hence the hate towards him. He told them and the entire roster that they'll have no choice but to respect and fear him. All of a sudden, Mr. Kennedy, of all people, interrupted, and note, Kennedy at this point was a heel, but that would cease to be in a few seconds. He said that while he'd love to congratulate the new king, he couldn't. Kennedy was a bit irritated over the fact that he wasn't in the tournament because he knew very well that the crown would be his. And because of this, he challenged Regal to determine just who's the real King of the Ring. The Raw GM felt completely disrespected by this challenge, saying that he's no common wrestler, and if anyone wants to talk to him, they should get an appointment. And then he demanded Kennedy apologize for his statement. He instead said, Regal decides to strike him, and by God, that was a mean-ass strike. It's like he owed him money or something. They brawl, officials separate them, and because of that strike, Kennedy was bleeding. Fast forward to the end of the night, Triple H and Randy Orton are competing in a WWE title main event. Both men went back and forth trying to hit their best shot, when all of a sudden, we see William Regal in the production truck. It was at the worst possible time because Orton was locked in a crossface. Regal didn't appreciate how the fans disrespected him, and so he wanted to take the show off the air. Kevin Dunn clearly snubbed that request, and so William Regal's like, "Take it off the bloody! Take it off the air now!" And if only he did that every Mondays at 8 o'clock. It was a very, and I mean very, unique way of ending the show. Some didn't like it, but just watching it again, I love it. No other heel authority figure even attempted to do something like this in storyline. Regal had such a thin skin to get offended by the fans that he was going to cut off the feed, potentially risking his job. That's how far he would go to get the fans' respect. Everyone in kayfabe was thinking, oh, he's gonna get punished by the boss. And that's what it was looking like when Mr. McMahon opened up the next Raw episode. He found Regal's actions to be revolutionary. Hell, Vince said that Regal reminded him of himself, and the reason why he was even out here was to endorse the Raw general manager. He ends up coming out a few seconds later, and the power-hungry monster proceeded to ask the fans if they got respect, and he threatened to turn off the lights again. The fans chanted, "Regal sucks," and he did just that. He turned off the lights again, and like I said, there was nobody that ever did something like Regal did. He didn't care if the fans can't see it. All he wanted was respect. And again, Mr. Kennedy interrupted. He told the general manager that if he wants respect so much, then maybe he should accept that challenge. Regal countered by booking him in a match against Kane and 13 others, that being the ECW roster. But when the champ heard that Regal refused to be disrespected, he came out. The game sarcastically congratulated the king before giving him some valuable advice, telling Regal not to make mistakes with his position of power. Triple H was pissed over Regal cutting off the feed during his match against Orton and threatened him, stating not to go to war. Because of this, Regal forced him to team up with Kennedy in a 14-on-2 handicap match. That wasn't even it, because later that night, he replaced Jim Ross with a man who had been disrespected for a long time like himself, Mike Adamle. As if that wasn't bad enough, he ruined a good-ass CM Punk and Randy Orton match by turning the lights off, announcing that the match was over. Because of this, Randy Orton was fuming, and while he was okay with last week, this was unacceptable. At the end of the night, Triple H was whooping ass when you guessed it. The lights go out and Orton RKO's the game, And basically, William Regal had such a strong hold over the Raw show, and he refused to be disrespected, simply put. Following week in Detroit, he opens up the show, forcing Lillian Garcia to perform God Save the Queen, generating massive heat in the process. Because of the booing, Regal again reminded them that he's the GM, and he can throw people out if he wants. All of a sudden, he selected 2 random fans that somehow were related to Mickie James. She tried begging him not to do anything, but he didn't give a damn. Regal sucks chants were loudly heard in the arena, and he was threatening to throw out Mickie as well. Hell, he was willing to strip her of the title, but then 8-bit John Cena made the save. Verbally, of course. Cena knew what Regal was going through, but felt that he was going about it the wrong way. The Raw GM responded with the Mr. McMahon endorsement thing, to which Cena says, "Oh, McMahon, he's crazy." John began listing a bunch of fan complaints, including a certain someone who wrote, "This is bad, this is WCW Thunder bad." Because of these complaints, Regal promised not to turn the lights off, but before he left, John Cena asked Lillian Garcia to perform the song Respect. Later that night, he stuck it to the champ by replacing the ref in his match against Randy Orton with JBL of all people. William Regal's run was really heating up at this point, but it came to a screeching halt, just like the 18-1 Patriots that year. On the May 19, 2008 episode of Raw, William Regal once again came out to massive heat from the crowd in order to announce a few matches for One Night Stand. Suddenly, Mr. Kennedy, who had been bugging the Raw GM, interrupts, and again, he asked for a one-on-one matchup tonight. In order to assert his authority, Regal's ready to fire whoever came out then and there. That segment ended up being rescinded because the boss was the one who came out. Kennedy was asking for Vince to fire Regal, but he quickly shut him up and moving on to other topics. While McMahon did give Regal his endorsement, since then the company has received more viewer complaints than ever before. While he didn't give a damn what the fans thought, it was hurting his pockets, you know. The money and the TV ratings were going down in kayfabe. Since both men want each other gone, he booked the loser leaves WWE match. That match goes down. Kennedy was pretty damn over, and shockingly enough, Regal lost. This was despite the fact that he made the match no DQ. After the match, the fans serenaded him with a goodbye song, and in the back, he tries to enter his office only to discover Teddy Long was in there. Some felt that this was going to lead to the Regal and Triple H battle, but the next day on May 20th, 2008, WWE.com revealed that William Regal had been suspended for 60 days for violating the wellness policy. ProWrestling.net reported that Regal was completely disappointed in himself for ruining his big push, as he knew that opportunities don't come along like that. Add to that, it was the second time Regal was suspended for the wellness policy. According to the Wrestling Observer, Regal claimed it was a mistake. Here's what they had to say. It is well known that William Regal has had problems with recreational drugs in the past, ultimately losing his job 2 times over, early 1998 from WCW and April 1999 from WWE, as well as a stint in rehab. However, he has long since claimed to be clean. No one has ever said anything on Regal struggling to maintain his sobriety, so that the theory of him failing a drug test due to recreational drugs appears to be out. Regal's been telling people that he believes he took an illegal supplement by accident, which led to his drug failure. However, a number of people are skeptical of that, mostly because so many athletes have used that excuse in the past and it's rarely believed. While it may not necessarily be true, the belief backstage among a few people in WWE is that Regal started taking steroids again somewhat recently due to his recent push after winning the King of the Ring tournament. Considering that he was pushed as an active wrestler and not just a suited up authority figure, the feeling is that he needed to get back on the gas to look his absolute best. Aw man, it's a damn shame. I honestly feel that had Regal never gotten suspended, he could have gone all the way. While there was doubts over McMahon fully believing in him initially, it's possible that the heat he was generating could have changed his mind. The one thing that was stopping him was the wrestling style in my eyes. Triple H was backing him. Had Regal never gotten suspended, a bunch of things would have been different. For one, it's unknown if Jericho HBK would have feuded for the title. Triple H may have never gone to SmackDown. If he never gotten suspended, I think he would have used his position of power to make himself the world champion, then get a faction, and heels and faces alike would hate him. I think it could have been a good storyline and could have established William Regal as a main event talent. It's just a damn shame that it never came to fruition because of the whole wellness policy thing, but had it did, like I said, I think Regal would have been the WWE champion. It's just something that I feel would have happened. But yeah, what do you guys think of William Regal's push? Please comment down below. And that's it for this video. Make sure you hit a knee trembler on the like button and perhaps a Regal stretch on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.